I'm 20 years old, I work a minimum wage job and I study full time. I live in a constant state that I won't be able to afford fuel in my car or be able to put groceries or ever get a house. Not only this, but there's talk of war, there's talk of running out of fuel, and there's also still living through COVID. Is there any point that I keep studying, that I keep trying, that I keep wanting these aspirations, or shall I just get comfortable in bed? So Australia used to be a place that I was very happy to say I was a part of, and I saw many ambitions here. Should I just get comfortable in this paycheck to paycheck sort of lifestyle, or should I keep going? Thank you.
Keep going, Jade. Keep going. I'm sorry to hear that things look so bleak, but it is understandable. Anika, what do you offer to someone like Jade when you hear that?
It is so bloody hard to be a young person in Australia at the moment. Rent in Brisbane averages about $500 a week now. You probably know that. If you need to get to Headspace, it's 4 months wait. At Nunda, 4 out of 10 young people have never had a permanent full-time job because those jobs keep getting casualised. And I got elected in 2019. It's my first term. What staggers me is that 2019 was the first year that there were more Australians born after 1980 than before, and it was the first year that our workforce had more millennials and Zoomers in it than all of the other generations combined. But we are only 10% of the National Parliament. I'm the youngest woman in the House of Reps this term, and I am 36, married, I have 3 kids and a rescue kelpie. You know, I'm at an age now where I'm starting to get really excited by orthopaedic footwear. The state of young people and their representation in our parliament is dire. So please do not get comfortable, get elected, or find one of your peers who you think would be great to represent you and your voice and your people in parliament and get them to Canberra as soon as possible.
Yeah, Stuart Robert, of course, what happens here now, though, is that we're hearing from Jade about just daily getting by, and we're now likely during this election campaign to see an interest rate rise, inflation going up around the world and going up here. Sadly, things are not going to get much better, are they?
Well, thanks, Jade, first of all, for your honesty. It can be difficult coming forward and saying it's hard, and it is. And every generation has its certain struggles, and we've seen coming out of COVID some of the challenges in mental health, especially as the acting education minister and visiting a school this morning in Petrie, just talking to students and parents about programs they're running to help young Australians really adapt and try and overcome some of the great challenges they've had. So it's a very honest response. It's a very common response from young people in that respect as well. I've got 3 sons, and I know Anika's got a young family. I've got a 16-year-old, 14-year-old, 12-year-old who constantly tell me they're stressed as well. But at the same time, to join Anika, Australia remains a land of enormous opportunity. Yes, there are some great uncertainties, and I think they're going to continue for a long time forward, as there have been uncertainties in the past. But with that comes enormous opportunity. With unemployment at 4% and getting lower, the opportunity for a job is always there, with opportunities in terms of education, for study and for travel. In pre-pandemic, over 11 million Australians travelled. So the opportunities are there. It's just about really embracing them, studying hard, looking for them, and seeking support and help if it's needed.
I'm not going to speak for Jade, but I don't know if that's the answer you were looking for, Jade, when you said that I can't afford my rent, fuel, groceries, there's talk of war, running out of fuel, COVID, prices going up. We've asked both of you, and you've told her exactly all the things that Jade knows and a pep talk about how to hang in there. But what are you actually going to do, Anika? What is the answer to what Jade is saying here? She's saying she can't afford fuel and rent and groceries. She doesn't need a pep talk.
No, I wasn't giving you a pep talk. I was urging you to run for Parliament. I hope you do it. But I accept your point. You're talking about cost of living and a sense that people aren't looking after you, people aren't addressing these concerns that bother you day to day. And I want to say, I get it. Like, I've got 3 kids. We pay childcare fees for 3 of them. The cost of everything is going up and wages aren't. What is Labor going to do? We're going to fix wages. We have to lift wages, and we have to give people good, secure jobs, because if you can take away the worry about living day to day, what your hours look like week to week, what your paycheck's going to do, and whether you're going to stay in that job beyond the contract that you might be in, then you can start to worry about getting your life together and doing things that you want to do, planning ahead.
Stuart Robert, again, the question to you was that on your watch, your government's watch, inflation's going up and we're on the verge of having an interest rate rise. And of course, we've heard, Jade said here, about the price of rent in Brisbane going up as well. So beyond platitudes, what are you actually going to do? What can you offer someone like that?
And I'm happy to go through what government does. I wanted to show some empathy first because I do understand the significant challenges. It's why tax cuts are so central to ensure that you get more money and keep more of it. It's why, in terms of coming forward to 1 July 2024, we bring forward the next round of tax cuts that knocks out an entire tax bracket. It's why the automatic stabilisers are there in terms of rent assistance for you, in terms of off-study there, as well as a range of other payments depending upon your family circumstances. I don't know if you have a partner or children. It's why the budget includes cost of living adjustment packages, especially in terms of the low income and low and middle income tax offsets. So these cost of living adjustments, these supports in terms of what's called the automatic stabilisers, either through off-study, through youth allowance, depending upon whether you're studying full-time or otherwise, the tax cut structures we're putting in place are all designed to provide as much assistance to you as possible. It's also why we're doubling down in terms of skilling. There has never been as much support going into skilling now, because we know if we can raise the skills of Australians, it leads to higher paying jobs. And I'd certainly encourage you to embrace that skilling agenda.
Larissa Waters.
Yeah, look, this is from a government that made university more expensive when in fact it used to be free and should be free again. So thank you, Jade, for encapsulating what so many other people feel right now. It's getting really hard to get by, and you're not alone in that regard. Everything's going up except your wages. But you know what else went up? The wealth of billionaires during COVID. Mining billionaires in particular doubled their wealth. So we've actually got a growing gap between the very wealthy and ordinary people. And this government isn't doing anything to fix that. What they could and should be doing is making TAFE and uni free. They should be putting dental and mental health care into Medicare, because no one can afford to go to the dentist and no one can afford to pay for the mental health treatment that they need. And here's a suggestion. You mentioned Austudy. It's too low. And so are all of the other social support payments. They are below the poverty line, and they should be at least $88 a day. Can I just finish, stand on that point? We can have all of these things. We can have a government that works for you and not just big corporates and political donors. If we make the billionaires and the big corporations pay their fair share of tax, we can raise the revenue and then fund the services that people need to address that cost of living.
All of that sounds good, Larissa Waters. It'll get applause, but debt's going up. We've had to reach into government revenue to get us through the other side of COVID. Inflation is global. Interest rates are going up around the world. What you're suggesting here is more spending, finding the money for more spending when debt is already going higher.
Well, how about we get rid of the $184 billion of stage 3 tax cuts that will go to the incredibly wealthy that do not need the help? Redeploy that money into those things that I just mentioned.
Campbell Newman, I was struck by something that you said, and it led to your disaffection with Liberal Party, and that is that you look at Australia and you don't recognise the country anymore. What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't recognise Australia, and I guess I'm agreeing with the concerns you're expressing, because this country has lost its mojo. And I grew up as a teenager in a country that believed in national development. It was the generation of World War II who built this country, who built the highway system, alumina refineries, coal-fired power stations, dams and irrigation schemes, and there was opportunity. But I think we've forgotten where our bread's buttered, how we earn our place in the world. And I'm sorry, Senator, I don't think the prescription to deal with the issue here is more tax. I don't think it's more spending. It's actually about cutting taxes. It's about creating an environment where people can take control of their money. For example, voluntary superannuation, being able to opt out rather than letting expensive and high-priced fund managers clip the ticket on your money.
One moment, please.
And it's about creating a country and a system where individual enterprise is rewarded and people can get ahead, because that's the way we actually deal properly with the sort of problems that have been expressed. And inflation is high, Minister. not just because of international pressures, it's because of the spending that's continued post-pandemic. It's because the RBA should have moved some months ago to deal with interest rates, and sadly, and I've been through this, I'm 59 this year, and I saw what happened when the RBA didn't move many years ago, 30 years ago, didn't move quickly enough, and it made it harder and tougher for Australians eventually with the recession we'd had to have, and I don't want that for a minute. What I want is I want for you to have Australia out there in front of you as a land of opportunity where you can get the rewards for your labour, and that's what the Liberal Democrats are all about.
Can I jump in?
Please.
And I think it's just fantastic, Jade, that you've really kicked tonight's discussion off, and fabulous to be here at this iconic cultural institution, the powerhouse of Brisbane, one of many, can I say. But young people are going to be the future, taking us forward. And the issues you're talking about are not abstract. And I think sometimes, particularly when we're in campaign mode, and I'm the non-politician here on the panel, so it's easy for me to talk a little bit about this, but the issues you're talking about are the issues people are talking about around the dinner table.
Too right.
And they are hard. And not only is it hard to navigate the rental assistance landscape, it's hard to just find the form you have to fill out. It's hard to talk to a person to actually understand how that fits with other social welfare provisions, with your education. And you don't actually have all that many hours in the day when you're also working and you're studying. And I think we need greater recognition, particularly in this campaign. There are a few weeks left to have more young people talking about the real issues they are facing, because you are the ones who are going to be taking forward the challenges, addressing the challenges that we'll be here talking about tonight. But we're going to be looking to you. We need to invest in you. So I would just say there's an opportunity for all the politicians here to really take the concerns you've put on the table very seriously over the next couple of weeks and give you some solutions.
Jade, thank you so much. A fantastic question. Thank you so much.